Hello everyone, welcome back. We're here for Kubera. I'm going to be recording two back-to-back, so next week's video, which will be up probably around the time you're watching this, if you're a member and would like to check that video out early, because I'm, well, as I've said many times, in Japan, and so I'm pre-recording stuff for next week, so that I at least have content while I'm gone. But yes, that'll be up now for members, as you're watching this, and next week at the usual time for everyone else. But, yeah. It's going to be very quick ones, probably 2 chapters each, just because, again, I want to make sure I get everything recorded in time before, well, I go away, because I don't have a lot of time on the Friday, which is when you're seeing this, because I need to go to sleep early, because I need to wake up early on the Saturday to catch a flight. But anyway, Kubera time! There were gods? How can gods look so much like Sura? You think all gods resemble humans? Current Azteca and Azteca can take human forms only because humans were the winners of the previous universe. So then, you would also look like one of those if gods were the previous winners? Or I could have been one of those gods in the previous universe. I don't think so. These shoes, I heard they were yours in the previous universe. They aren't god-level items. And they seem fit for humans. So, if gods in the previous universe don't look like humans, then you must... About time you bring up those shoes. I just assumed you'd bring them up first in case you needed them. I mean, you can see me wearing them. What if I did? Are you going to return them? Of course, they were yours to begin with. And as is this bracelet. So for someone who's been showing enmity toward me, you're honest in a peculiar way. Do whatever you want with them. They're useless to me anyway. And your guess about my looks in the previous universe based on those shoes was correct. I wasn't one of the humans that were created in that universe, but I was among them as one of them. Right, what does that mean? He wasn't one of the humans, but he was among them. So, give me a minute, I'm just drinking a protein shake. I've just got back from the gym. I really ought to buy protein powder, and then I wouldn't need to go to the shop every single time I go to the gym. Just to have a protein shake, but... Hey, here we are. What does this mean? Also, that's a pretty big reveal as to, you know, the state of Kubera as an individual, but also, what the fuck does that mean? What were you then? You weren't one of the humans, but you were among the humans as one of them. What the fuck does that mean? Okay. So I've got this bit of hair sticking out the side. It's mildly frustrating. With all of my memories erased, I was to carry out a mission. Oh, okay, maybe we're gonna find out. Season 3, episode 312. Find out 1:18. As you know, gods, Sura, and humans are the intelligent beings that inhabit the correct universe. But it was only gods and humans in the previous one. Oh, now that's a revelation. Now hold up. The previous gods as a species were stronger and hostile, with the ability to resurrect themselves. They were also winners of multiple universes and living proofs that a perfect creation does not need good faith. And humans were the challengers, given the opposite characteristics of gods. The last test for good faith. Compared to gods, they were weaklings, and they couldn't be resurrected. Now, this implies that there's a purpose for the universes constantly being reset. Right? Which, I mean, should have been obvious. Right? But living proof that you don't need good faith. Good faith in what? Humanity? Other creatures? Being, or does it just mean being a good existence? You know what I mean? And humans make the opposite. They have the last test for good faith. But who's testing them? Who's testing? Because if the gods in the previous universe were these, but this doesn't necessarily imply that the primeval gods were. If anything, these look, again, more like Sura. Right? Obviously. Just aesthetically. So I'm wondering if the primeval gods are the ones, Vishnu specifically, is the one testing. Is, you know, the one administering this test. Because it doesn't refer to the primeval gods, and typically the primeval gods are referred to most of the time independently of the regular gods, simply because of the inherent distinction between the, you know, influence and power the two have. Interesting. As a species, they'd repeatedly age, die, and get reincarnated. And their only merit was to continue improving based on the knowledge and experience from their past lives. At first, they'd bow and scrape as much as they'd bow and scrape as they were no match for the gods. But over time, they grew strong enough to finally stand up to them. The gods used to think humans were a joke, began to feel overwhelmed by them, and started to massacre them so as to nip the potential threat in the bud. In the end, even if they continued to reincarnate, they'd no longer be able to continue their survival without a place to go on.
If gods could resurrect endlessly, do humans even stand a chance at winning? I mean,
there was no way for them to win on their own. Their extremely advanced technology couldn't lower the prevailing number of gods, and they were left with one planet in the entire universe.
What did I fucking tell you?
That's when primeval gods showed up, offering to save them from their despair.
Primeval gods? So they were the same as now in that previous universe?
There were 4 of them, just like now. They just looked different.
Am I a genius or am I a genius? Just saying.
Just like the gods who were the previous winners, they also had the looks of monsters.
I'll grant you, if you join me, I'll grant you the same resurrecting ability as the gods. If you join me, I'll give you the power to confine your enemies in other dimensions. If you join me, I'll grant you the ability to kill your enemies so they can never resurrect.
So, Vishnu, Brahma, Kali, Shiva. If you join me, I'll give you the power to obliterate the souls of your enemies. The ability to resurrect didn't seem appealing to humans, since it couldn't end the war. They were just too exhausted by the never-ending fight. Then, even for their longtime enemies, they thought obliterating their souls would be too harsh. So they ended up siding with Brahma by the looks of it. Their choice came down to 2 of the primeval gods, and finally they chose the power to confine their enemies to other dimensions. The fight between the 2 species continued on for a long time. The universe began falling apart as another threat presented itself, but the humans never gave up. And as they managed to confine the last of the gods, the fight came to an end. As humans became the winning species, the primeval gods who had joined forces with them took on the human forms as well, and congratulated their survival.
I bet you had hopes on the good faith. I bet my hopes on the good faith, and you've proven me right. Everything will be set and ready for you in the next universe. I promise.
Lying bitch. While the next universe is being prepared, the humans were taking a rest in the afterlife. Interacting with the primeval gods and catching up with one another. And when the time came for them to leave the afterlife, they were given the option to choose the universe of their liking. An advantageous universe with weaker enemies and a higher chance of winning. A disadvantageous universe with stronger enemies and a lower chance of winning. Whichever they chose, another universe of competition was awaiting them. And if they didn't like that, the only other option was to remain in that space that was soon to disappear forever. Maybe they thought the outcome was obvious. Maybe they had some other reason. But 3 of the primeval gods left the scene. Only one of them remained, persuading the humans to choose the disadvantageous course.
And there's no way to tell who it is. There's no way to tell who it is. Not even the text bubble colour. This is going to be a big reveal. The fact that the text bubbles aren't being coloured
Well, I guess not all gods have colored text bubbles, but like they were here when they were in their monstrous form, where they're effectively communicating like Sura. Right? But still. I wonder which of the four this is. It doesn't really make sense for Shiva. Shiva has like no real motive to do this, so I don't think it's going to be Shiva. But then again, it could be. We know next to nothing about him. The likely guesses are Kali and Vishnu. Or Vishnu, not and. It's not both of them. Right? Especially given that Brahma sided with the humans in this one. This universe. So it's likely not Brahma. So it's going to be Shiva or... Kali or Vishnu. My guesses are between those two. The gods you fought have become the losers. And they'll have no choice but to go to the opposite universe of your choosing. The point is, 2 consecutive losses for a creation means permanent punishment. Permanent perishment. You all won this time, so you still get another shot if you lose in the next universe. But those losers right there will be gone for good if they lose one more time. Yeah, but that means if they lose in the next universe, and then the gods pick the advantageous one, humans are fucked. Why? No. Picking the disadvantageous course is always just wrong. No offense. Right? You gotta look out for the betterment of your own species. Now, let's think. You all were reluctant to obliterate the souls of your enemies, and ended up choosing to confine them to another dimension instead. That's how good-hearted your species is. So how could you look the other way knowing they're on the brink of permanent annihilation? And to be fair, this might not even be true. Isn't that against your moral standards? You already have the experience of being the weaker species, so it'll be easier and faster for you to adapt to a similar universe. And even if you end up losing, you'll be left with one more chance, so you'll still be better off than them. Well, listen, I still don't think it makes sense for us to choose a disadvantageous universe. You still wish to choose the advantageous universe, even when you know the consequences. I see. So you'll leave the losers of the previous universe to perish forever. Of course you'd say this, you are a god. Well, I did myself separate the primeval gods, but still, shut up. And choose the advantageous universe for the sake of an easy win? It's Kali. You'll readily step over those weaklings that's been set up for you? And become... Or is it Shiva? I actually can't tell. And become their slaughter. Just like the gods in the previous universe. And this is Kubera. Their species was too inclined toward good faith. And the only one that spoke out, while the others were seemingly going toward the disadvantageous one. Was interesting. Interesting indeed. Their species was too inclined toward good faith, and just couldn't give up on a nice self. In the end, very few chose the advantageous universe against the persuasion, while most others chose the disadvantageous one, and the rest chose to stay put and disappear along with the dimension they were in.
Seeing how you've become a god, I guess you chose the advantageous universe. And this must be the very universe you chose? Then the reason why those loser gods showed up...
Wrong. This is the disadvantageous universe that was chosen by the majority.
Hmm?
All 4 primeval gods were needed to open the door to multiple universes, but Kali refused to work together, and the remaining 3 could only open the door to one universe. Those who had chosen different universes were divided into advantageous and disadvantageous species within the same universe. The ones who chose this advantageous universe became the weak humans once again, while the ones who chose the advantageous universe were given the power to resurrect and became gods. Now that is a twist. That's saucy. That is very saucy. Since too few choose to become gods, other souls that weren't from the universe filled in the vacancies. And since the majority had chosen the disadvantageous universe, the environment of the universe was composed as unfit for survival, with the addition of a 3rd species which would be unfavorable to both gods and humans. They could neither resurrect like gods, nor advance like humans, but had the almighty power that could override all those factors. They were Nastika.
I mean, you could argue they do eventually get the ability to adapt because they end up being able to produce Rakshasa and such, you know? Delicious, delicious water. Right, second chapter for today, and then I'll take a break and record next week's, which will be another 2. Huh. There were extremely few that chose to remain here and perish. The majority chose to go on to the next universe and survived. I bit the dust. But a lot more would have chosen to perish if not for Kali's persuasion. So it was Kali. Overall number of survivors spiked as people got convinced by Kali. The willingness to help their kind in a difficult situation in itself motivated them to go on. And once again, it's proven that good faith isn't always something that hinders survival. I guess not as many would have survived if the majority had chosen the advantageous universe. So what? Kali disappeared and only one universe opened up. The whole plan went down the drain. Those Azteca weren't supposed to be part of this universe. I don't mind, really. When anything work out as planned anyway. It's great if it works out. If not, then so be it. Don't get so hung up on that plan of yours. Vishnu, you knew all this, didn't you? Of course I did. Though I just thought my ideals could still come true regardless of which universe they chose. Plus, I consider this much to be foreseeable even if you can't read the future. I expect you to be ready for what's to come. That's all. That's right. She needed to be ready. Instead, she overestimated her power of creation. Or, she thought she knew her creations all too well. But repenting isn't for transcendent beings like herself. To them, all problems are caused by inferior beings. And of course, they have to pay the price. I mean, at least there's a reason why Brahma became such a bitch. Right? And that was the limitation of a universe dominated by the primeval gods. The humans have more than one... Oh, wait. The humans have one more chance. Yeah, maybe we should just reset everything. Just say the humans lost this round and restart again. That shouldn't be just up to you to decide, God Brahma. Although this universe started off far from how you designed it, those humans can still help and rely on each other to develop. It's a bigger issue if they win in the universe they're siding with Kali. Do you really have to put it that way? Look at yourself. You didn't join hands with Kali, and yet, here you are. The most perfect creation has chosen the right path to prove me right, so the ones who took the opposite path were wrong. Compared to... You're just picking her up, just... Shut up, child. Compared to the gods in the previous universe, current Azteca and Nastika have more room to accept kindness from others. Compromises are plausible, and God Vishnu's chance of winning has gone up. He won't agree to reset things at this point. Then how about lowering the odds of compromising? I get it. So the point is to make Vishnu give up on them, right? Ever since then, her insight has become less and less effective on me. All the primeval gods became rather emotional after taking on the human form, but she was particularly more so than the others. And she was losing her prestige a lot faster than other primeval gods. Season 3, episode 313, Fun at 1:19. To sum up what you told me, this world is a giant lab where each primeval god tests their objectives. And for their test subjects, it's just one test after another even after they survive. Or permanent perishment for those who refuse to be tested. Yeah, it's kind of brutal. Fuck the primeval gods. Like, outright. Just fuck them. Fuck them. And all the while, everything that happens falls on the test subjects.
You seem pretty calm about hearing everything you just heard. Others tend to deny the truth, get furious, or even give up on their lives. Are you able to understand the primeval gods and what they do?
I get that they're ignorant of their creations, the agony they go through, or how unfairly they get treated. But no matter how hard I try, I don't really get them. I guess it's because I'm also one of their creations. So basically, the current humans are paying for the wrong choice that they made?
No, the humans you see now aren't the winners from the previous universe. Rather, they're new living creatures that have been introduced as replacements. As a result of Brahma's intervention, the winners from the previous universe had been wiped out at the beginning of this universe, the ancient human race. Shiva had gone to close the cracks in the dimensions, and Vishnu to fight against Kali. Upon their realization, they realized what had happened, and they questioned Brahma.
They could have lived in harmony with the other species through compromise and collaboration. They had a future. In the previous universe, they didn't pick the power to resurrect and failed to achieve that. But in this one, their odds were decent. I even told you all this, so how come? That's your ideal universe, not mine. I don't need a universe that started as chaos from the beginning. I knew our objectives are different. I can understand your loss of interest. Still, Shiva and I have so far put up with a universe that seemed useless for our ideals.
You think you own this universe or something? What's up with you, huh? You could even dream of creating one without my help.
Vishnu knew everything and kept quiet. So take it out on him if you want to blame someone.
No way. He'd by no means...
I knew there was a possibility of war breaking out, but humans were seen to survive in most of those possibilities. I saw one future in which they got wiped out, but that possibility was extremely unlikely, and I didn't think my old-time friend would go that far, so I decided to disregard it.
Just what was that possibility?
The possibility of stealing Aravada's name. Now, Aravada's name does get stolen, doesn't it? That's foreboding. That's really foreboding. Oh no.
Are you saying that she used the spear? But how? I never gave my consent.
Neither did I. Kali laughed at me as she withdrew from the fight and told me everything would be over by the time I got back. I didn't want to believe her. You're willing to erase the entire human race just because they joined hands with Kali? And yet you also teamed up with that same Kali just to be able to wipe them out. What a hypocrite you are. It was just a temporary thing to achieve a shared goal. You also do the same when you need to. All I got was her consent to use the spear. Plus, I gave her nothing in return. So you think... Or so you think. I'm sorry to break it to you, but you gave her everything in return. Don't you get it? Having you finish them with your own hands was exactly what she was going for.
Doesn't even look like she cares. Huh. So what do we do with the rest of the universe? This universe was supposed to be for the winners, but most of them are gone now. Should we give the stage to the losers for another chance? Or just call it quits and start over?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's just start from scratch. I don't agree with that. If we allow someone to just throw things out as they wish, their behavior could just become a thing. Plus, the humans that have replaced the old human race also hold possibilities. And this universe still shows me the future I'm rooting for. I won't give up on that.
I see. I mean, I could just take it easy this time. But for you, Vishnu, it'll be really hard to meet that goal.
Yeah.
Let's face it, now that the species with the highest odds of winning is removed from the universe, would harmony even be attainable? Those new humans don't even have the one advantage the old human race used to have. They're just a bunch of weaklings with short lifespans and no recollections of previous lives whatsoever. Can you imagine? They'll be back at square one every time their civilization falls. Where do you find hope in any of that? In any of these?
You're right. The possibility is very small now. But as long as there's still some hope, I'll keep trying. No matter how long it takes. That's my job, you know? In the meantime, Brahma, I hope you get to learn something.
In the end, Brahma ended up getting rid of all the creations she cheered for, and was left with a universe that was far from her ideal. Needless to say, she'd embraced the fall of this universe. Until now, she'd been more or less putting up with the current universe without acting up again, only because she can't handle the backlash from the other primeval gods.
But right now, she's the only one that's really active. Kali's in this weird, like, pseudo-existence, existing basically only through Utah, and Vishnu is kind of not here. So Brahma's the only one that has, like, a tangible, direct, immediate impact on the universe now. That's why she's now acting up, I imagine.
One good justification is all she needs to push that button and tear this universe apart. That's the Brahma in N23. Now Shiva and Vishnu aren't there to keep her in check, and with most Azteca blindly following her orders, it'll be a rough battle.
Would you stand against her as well?
That was my plan all along. From the day I picked up that spear, until the moment I brought down the Sura realm. My only goal was to create a world that doesn't get manipulated by the primeval gods. Because I know too well, no creation can ever be happy under their influence.
Are you going to insist that you made the name deal with them for the same purpose?
That's right. What have I said? All the lives that were lost in the process were sacrifices for the greater good. Would that be acceptable to you?
Only if there's a way to salvage the victims. Otherwise, it wouldn't be acceptable. No matter how great your ideal universe might be, your actions would be no different from that of the primeval gods.
There might be a way. But first things first, we must stop these losers from the previous universe. The ones you saw chasing after Ron were just the tip of the iceberg. They outnumber all the Rakshasa in this universe.
Temple of Destruction Grounds.
When the old human race went extinct, Shiva suggested freeing them from
repishade? I don't know that word. I actually don't know that word.
But Vishnu opposed the idea, as they remain in captivity throughout.
In the absence of those primeval gods causing them to go free?
Not really. They were getting freed little by little even when Shiva and Vishnu were here. The issue could be something else that has nothing to do with their will. But if you ask me, I think it's because Vishnu changed his mind. Anyway, whenever you see them lurking on Willarv, you need to come to the site of the Temple of Destruction and stop them.
Why are they all coming my way?
Their power is comparable to that of a Rakshasa, but they need to go through a waiting period before resurrecting, so they won't reappear right after you kill them. Get rid of the ones that snuck out. I'll close the opening in the meantime.
If they have that waiting period, wouldn't it be better to fight them together and then close the gap? It's a bit overwhelming for me to take.
Unfortunately, we can't attack each other. Ask the one behind you if you need help.
Utah?
Yeah, what is he doing here? What and how is he doing here? But anyway, that's going to be the end of this reaction. Hope to catch you all next week for the video I'm going to record right now. So yeah, with that out of the way, leave a like, comment, sub, notification bell. Try and hit 1,000 by the end of the year. Do me a solid. Help me achieve that. That'd be fantastic. And out of the way, I've been Aussie. You've been you. Ta-ta. Bye now.